for those that don't know, you have to play 65 games to be eligible for, I think, every season award recognition, both awards as well as all NBA, all defensive teams, all rookie team selections. And I will admit, I think all three of us agreed that at the time when this rule was brought into play, it was a great idea because we were in the middle of some of the worst load management seasons ever, and the NBA was trying to find a way to fix it, and they came up with this idea, which was brilliant at the time. However, this season has been plagued by injuries, unfortunately, like injuries that aren't load management related, and because of that, we're in a situation where a bunch of players that probably would get a nod, whether it's all NBA team, all defensive team, or even just award winners, they're not even going to sniff any postseason recognitions because of the 65 game rule. And I have like a 4-day old Reddit thread with the list of players, but I'm pretty sure it's even outdated now of what certain players may or may not be eligible. But already disqualified, Giannis, LeBron, Steph, all those guys aren't eligible for awards, which Giannis was Hunter and myself's preseason MVP pick. So there goes that. But Jokic, I think, is 2 games away from not being eligible. Devin Booker's also 2 games away from not being eligible. Kawhi's 4 games away from not being eligible. Wemby's 4 games away, which Wemby's probably hands down going to win Defensive Player of the Year, barring injuries. So, and that's just a list of some of them. Luka's on this list. SGA's on this list. Ant's on this list. But I will mention with the Wemby situation, I think I saw something that he can actually miss more because of the NBA Cup situation. I think there's like a buffer because of this is someone that listed a note. Again, it's from Reddit, so it could be completely false. But what are your guys' thoughts on this rule? Because again, I think we all agreed that it was a great idea when it happened, when it got put into play. But again, Giannis, LeBron, Steph, Jokic, Booker, Kawhi, Wemby, Luka, SGA, Ant. Those are almost the entire top 15 in terms of faces of the NBA that may not even make it to the end of the season to be able to be eligible for these awards. So do we change it? Do we just keep going, or is this a fluke season?
I mean, usually when you have to win these huge awards, like you have to play a lot of games. But I think in this season particularly, it's just kind of odd because I made a joke before we started recording. One of the funniest tweets I've seen in a long time was this: how about how bad the 65 game rule is. It's gonna have like Norman Powell be an All NBA caliber guy, and we're gonna look back in 20 years and be like, what did Norman Powell actually do to deserve an All NBA selection versus other guys? Um, but usually, like especially for the MVP, you have to play above 60 games anyway. But it's just super unfortunate this year the way it turned out because, like you said, Jokic is on the verge of not being eligible. Wemby's on the verge of not being eligible. It's really just going to come down to like what Cade, who's got a couple games where he could spare, where he won't potentially miss. Shea's on the bubble, whether or not he. What'd you say? How many games can he miss,
I
bro?
think he's at 12,
He's like over
and
halfway there.
yeah, he's over halfway. And the rule's 18 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 82.
Should
It's
be
17, isn't
65
it?
games.
Yeah,
17.
you can miss 17
You can
games in
miss
the season.
17. Okay, yeah. Um, yeah. So
But
he's at 12, so he's got 5 more that he can spare.
which with the Thunder, I think they have 17 games to go in the season anyway. So it's not like super impossible for him to play all the games. But all it takes is like one. Not saying it's going to happen, but all it takes is one fluke injury,
Yep.
and he's out. Jokic could be out. Like this could be a world and a year in the NBA where we have like a huge underdog win the MVP. And not to say that Cade Cunningham isn't like deserved of MVP
Mm-hmm.
because what the Pistons have done this year has been like really remarkable comparing It's like, was it 2 years ago they were like the worst team in the NBA with like 15 or 16 wins?
Yeah, back when I was buying my Piston stock for pennies.
Yeah. Honestly, this could be like, if let's say disaster scenario, this could be a year where either like Cade Cunningham wins it, Jalen Brown could win this award. Like,
Whew. I don't
honestly
know what
though,
I would do if that happened.
because the four guys ahead of Jalen Brown all are on the verge, outside of Cade, I should say. But Shea can only miss five more. Jokic is two away. Wemby's a couple away. Like,
Hmm.
it's not unheard of. If again, disaster scenario, I don't think that's gonna take place. But
Imagine Jalen Brown winning league MVP.
if you want an MVP and a Finals MVP before Tatum,
I,
that
ca-
would be something.
I just picture Ricky Bobby after his first race, and he's just like holding his hands up, talking on ESPN. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with my hands." Like that.
Yeah.
That's Jalen Brown winning a league MVP. Which I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He definitely deserves to be in the top 5 voting, really, in terms of, you look at his numbers this season. But like, this is crazy. The injury numbers this year has been rough for sure. I, makes me wonder what they need to do with the 65 game rule.
Though I have one more thought, and I'll let Hunter have the floor because I know he's got some thoughts on this. The one underrated storyline of this, it kind of screws over the players. Like, let's say it's a player that's like on the verge of making like an All NBA selection, and that's like a
Oh
huge
yeah,
contract
yeah.
incentive. Because this happened with Evan Mobley last year. Evan Mobley was like, I think, a couple games away from not being able to qualify for Defensive Player of the Year. He ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year, and instead of, I think, 5 years 240, his contract, or maybe 5 years 200, it went up to 5 years 240. It added another $40 million on top of that because he was an All NBA selection. He was a Defensive Player of the Year winner. Like, for some of these guys, it's a matter of millions and millions of dollars that it costs, all because instead of playing in 65 games, you play in 61 games or something along the lines of that.
Now I'm thinking negatively, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are these teams going to start benching people just so they don't get selected, so they don't have to pay them that much?
The reason why the Cavs are a second apron team is because Evan Mobley won the Defensive Player of the Year last year.
And
That's all I'm going to say.
yeah, yeah, and makes you really wonder, like, will some of these teams start doing that? Like, first of all, you're going to get fined for tanking, or like whatever the roster rules that they have, because it would be completely obvious. I feel like, unless you have a legit injury. But Hunter, what are your thoughts? Like, is there a way to fix this rule? Is there a way to, like, maybe be like, okay, this is a rule, but we have exceptions to it? Or
Yeah. I think before I go into that, I think for anybody, because like Brock said, when they were kind of making this rule, we all agreed like it makes sense, right? Because on paper, you just gotta play 80% of the games. In fact, just under 80% of the games, right? It's like that makes sense. But I think if you were to like look at the situation in right now, and even though I don't like the guy, I think he's like the perfect example as like why we need to change. And it's Nikola Jokic. And so when Jokic got injured, so when we actually talked about on the podcast when it kind of happened, but he got injured in late December, okay, last year, got injured, hyperextended his knee. It was out for quite literally a month. She's gone for 1 month of the NBA season. And in that month, he missed, I believe it was 15 games. And as Brock pointed out earlier, you can only, if you miss 18 games, that's the cutoff. So if you get hurt during the wrong point of your schedule, and like Dawson said, with just one freak injury, that puts your entire eligibility at risk. And so it's just so hit or miss on like like whether it's a nagging injury, whether it's like one single injury, what happens then to put all that at jeopardy, which is why really the biggest need to change. And so the easiest thing on paper, at least to look at it, is I think there's two different ways. One is you increase the amount of games you're allowed to miss, whether it's like, let's see, if you were to play 70% of the games in an NBA season, you would have to play
like 57
games. Yeah,
Good
57,
Lord,
58.
Dawson, math wizard.
Big brain, big brain.
Oh yeah.
And so one, again, you could increase that, or two, and I honestly probably the way I would lean is to make the change that has kind of been talked about honestly for a while and shorten the NBA season. You shorten the NBA season as a whole. 82 games at this point kind of feels a little ridiculous. You kind of have, you've already had all the questions of, does the regular season even matter? All the things with players' health, and obviously, if you decrease the amount of games they have to play going into the postseason, you increase the chances of players being healthy in general for postseason play. Obviously, I think the hardest thing with all this in my mind right now is just with the expansion. Preferably, I still like it when all the teams are able to play one another. But if you increase the amount of teams that are in the league, obviously that kind of has to reflect that. But overall, like, it really shouldn't be all that unheard of to think about just decreasing the NBA season in general. And maybe that's something that we can probably focus on maybe even in the off season potentially.
Yeah.
I've thought of some ideas of what that number could be. And I'm sure there are people way smarter than me out there that probably have some sort of perfect number in general, what you could decrease it to. But to be honest, I think that's the way I would currently lean, is just looking at changing what our regular season just looks like in general in order to not only protect the health of NBA players, but also help with getting awards to the people that should probably have it.
I agree. I don't know if I agree on the shortening the NBA season from the aspect of, I think one of the biggest pushbacks would be, well, then what's the point of all these like records? Because like then you're throwing out all those. But also you got to put into consideration that the NBA season wasn't as long as it used to. Like it was probably not 82 games when Wilt Chamberlain was hypothetically scoring 100 points in a single game. I still have yet to see any clips of that game, by the way. But so that's the biggest argument that will probably come up with the discussion of shortening the NBA season. I still like the idea of starting the NBA season on Christmas Day and finding a way to extend it maybe even to like July or August. I don't know how that would work logistically for numbers, and if it actually adds a couple weeks or shrinks the season by the current setup. But like having the NBA, I feel like end either right after preseason football or right as preseason football is starting, I feel like would be such a good idea for the NBA, because during the summer, everybody talks about how the NBA season's really long. No offense, there are very few people that I know that are watching Major League Baseball in July or August when it's not like the 4th of July weekend or whatever big weekend baseball has that they do some special jersey design or promotional thing. So try to take over that time. I know that there's probably issues with that given that they are heavy investors in the WNBA, but I don't know what you can do really, because I do like the idea of 82 games. I think I'm coming to the realization that that's not, I can't just be like, well, I like it as my argument anymore. So, and again, this is kind of like probably a later down the line episode that we can talk about, but yeah, something needs to happen for sure.
The tough part about like the talk of like shortening the season though is that's going to cost everyone a bunch of money. The players' salaries will have to go down. The
Yep.
owners will make less money. So that's the tough part. That's like, yeah, the NBA PA or the Players Association could be like bring that up to the owners, like, hey, we want to shorten the season. Let's cut it by 20 games. Let's make it 62 games. But then the owners are going to come back like, okay, cool. You all lose 20% of your salary or 25% of your salary. And our players going to be on board with that? I don't think so. Our owners can be on board with that. No, because that's less in merchandise, that's less in ticket sales, and all that little stuff adds up.
Yeah.
So I find it really difficult that we'll actually get anywhere with like shortening the NBA season. But you could just spread the season out, like have no more or back to backs or anything like that. Like you said, fill those days in like the middle of July when the only thing going on is MLB, where you could potentially steal some viewership from baseball. Maybe have the finals be right around the 4th of July or something like that. Just something where these players aren't having like 5 games in 7 nights or like 7 games in 13 days. Like something that's not going to put players' health at risk. But yeah, I don't really know how feasible it is for the NBA to actually come to an agreement about shortening the season. It's just there's too much money involved anymore with all these teams. So
Yeah. Are you guys in general, not necessarily logistic wise, are you guys okay with 82 games? Do you prefer a shortened season just currently, or what are your thoughts?
I'm a nostalgia person. I'm always going to be in favor of just keeping tradition. Like
Yeah.
even when the NFL added the 17th game 4 or 5 years ago, I still don't really like that. It throws off every single record. Like looking back,
Yeah.
like it looks gross. Versus the 16 games that it used to be, and now the NFL is talking about adding another game and making the season even longer, which is kind of wild at this point.
I don't need another week of watching Arizona Cardinals football. Like,
What are you talking about, dude? Like, all the moves they made today, and you're gonna say that?
oh, I can't wait to watch Gardner Minshew hand it off to Aguilar for a -2 yard gain on 4th and
Or
4.
Kendrick Bourne, the new wide receiver for you guys? I'm just kidding.
We need a quarterback. Oh, I guess we got. I guess I don't even know. Is Jacoby Brissett? I don't know what his contract is with them. That's a different show.
Sorry for bringing
get,
that up, but
I get what you mean though with adding the games. That's one thing though. I'm worried about the NBA with this pretty much guaranteed expansion within the next 5 years. Is if I wonder if that's going to entice them to maybe even expand even more and then add more games. And because again, more revenue, more money, more eyes on your product. I don't know. I like, and again, further down the line, we might have to do an episode about this, but I like the idea of the finals ending last week or so of July, and it leads right into preseason football. And at the same time, it leads right into the back stretch of MLB baseball as well. Because that's one of the cool things about how basketball and football works really well right now is like, or it used to before they have tried to take over every holiday event that the NBA has tried to do. But like they kind of complemented each other where basketball was just starting as the NFL was getting very hyped up. And then once the NFL season was over, the NBA was able to take full control of the face of sports. And so we'll see what happens. If we're talking about Jaylen Brown, go ahead, Dawson.
no, Hunter would know. When the Bucks won the title in 21, wasn't the finals pushed back like way later because of COVID and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was because the season. Yeah, the season
Wasn't it
started a
like
bit later.
end of July?
It was. Yeah, it was a long time.
And why not? Let's
It's
do
really,
it.
really
Bring
long.
it back.
Again, by the time if that happens, the season ends at the end of July, and then you're right into football. You're into preseason, the training camp. Like NBA, the blueprint's out there. I know you won't. Now, if you did that, like you said, Brock, you might have to push the season back to Christmas or at least like after Thanksgiving. But the blueprint's out there, NBA.